So greetings, hello, and welcome to each of you out there tuning in. We're glad you chose to do so, and we're excited to bring you another edition of the Council for Responsible Sports from the Field webinar series, exploring what responsible sport means in action. My name is Shelley Villalobos. I'm the Managing Director of the Council for Responsible Sport. It's a nonprofit organization based in Eugene, Oregon that envisions a world where responsible sport is the norm, and we provide resources and certification services to event organizers working to improve the social and environmental results of their events. So I'm really excited that you all joined today because I have special guests to welcome, and I'm excited for them to share the story of a special event that's been in the Council's network for several years now, since 2012, and which actually was the first event to earn an invitation to our Inspire category, which is really where events have shown a consistent commitment to the core principles and practices of responsible sport as laid out in our certification standards. And that event is Old Bill's Fun Run in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And we're excited to have Annie Riddell, who is the Old Bill's Fun Run coordinator. And she's joined by the co-captains of Old Bill's Recycling and Waste team, Allan Hanna, who is the Education and Outreach Director for Teton County Integrated Solid Waste and Recycling, as well as Mac Dukart, the Teton Outreach Associate with the Greater Yellowstone Coalition. So Annie, Allan, Mac, thank you all for taking some time to speak with me today, and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So let's kick it off with a quick self-intro from each of you. I'd love to hear how you got involved with the event and one of your favorite things about Old Bill's Fun Run. How about you, Annie?
Great. Well, thank you. I just wanted to thank you again for the opportunity to speak a little bit about Old Bill's today. My name is Annie Riddell, and I'm a nonprofit consultant here in Jackson, Wyoming. I have been working with Old Bill's Fun Run since 2010, and I would say, well, I actually have two favorite things. I'll try to be quick about it. The first thing is just the feeling I have on Run Day, which is it is such an incredible manifestation of community spirit and generosity, and it's just a really powerful and touching event to be part of. People gather for a very special cause that morning. And then my other favorite thing about Old Bill's is what an incredibly collaborative event it is, and we will get into that.
Great. How about you, Allan?
Thanks, Shelley. I came to this event as an employee for County Solid Waste. I actually used to work at that office with Mac, and this is my first year on the Run Committee helping out with waste, and it was a great experience. I think my favorite thing about the Old Bill's Day, of course, is how the community just comes together to kind of celebrate and appreciate all that we are, and then as a waste nerd, being able to feature all the topics that are near and dear to my heart in that atmosphere is just terrific.
Nice, nice. And Mac?
Hello, my name is Mac Dukart, and I started helping out with the event 4 years ago when I was working with the county in solid waste and recycling, and have been there ever since, and it's an honor. I currently work with the Greater Yellowstone Coalition, where I'm the Teton Outreach Associate with them. And I think a couple of my favorite things about this event is, just the increased energy around town and around philanthropy when this event rolls in. It's on everybody's radar. Everybody's participating. And then, of course, my other favorite thing is the fun costumes on race day.
Mac is a costume connoisseur. You should know this.
That's great. Well, thank you all for sharing that, and it's good context for our conversation to kind of get a sense for how much you all this event and the community has embraced it, obviously, as well. So let's get into it a little bit. Annie, could you help us by sharing an overview of the purpose of this event and what it does for the community of Jackson Hole?
You bet. So Old Bill's Fun Run is a nonprofit fundraiser that is hosted annually by the Community Foundation of Jackson Hole. It was originally conceived in 1997 when an anonymous philanthropic couple, whom we've dubbed Mr. and Mrs. Old Bill, envisioned a collaborative event that would support all Teton County, Wyoming nonprofits. And from that vision, Old Bills was born. Over the 21-year lifetime of the event, it's raised $146 million for more than 200 local charities. And with about a third of Teton County households participating in Old Bills, it's truly made philanthropy a household word in our community. The leverage and inspiration point that drive Old Bills giving are the co-challengers. The co-challengers are a special group of individuals and businesses that donate matching funds to Old Bills. Their gifts are not designated to specific nonprofits, but rather they're used as a match for the community's donations. So the co-challenger group is led by Mr. and Mrs. Old Bill, who donate $500,000 each year, and the co-challengers give at various levels between $25,000 and $250,000. Their donations form the match pool, which is divided up to supplement the amounts that participating nonprofits raise. And so it's a very synergistic fundraiser that benefits a huge number of organizations in the Valley. Run Day is our annual celebration of philanthropy in Jackson Hole. It is in early September, and it includes a 5K fun run and walk, a timed 5K and 10K run, free breakfast, live entertainment, and festive and informative nonprofit booths. It's a really vibrant and fun opportunity for our community to learn about the critical work of our local nonprofits. And roughly 4,000 people joined the party that morning, so it's a really quite a sight. So Old Bills is made possible by a volunteer powerhouse of 350 people, the nucleus of which is the Run Committee. And as you know, Mary Allen and Mac are two of the Run Committee all-stars. The magic of Old Bills for me as coordinator, I would say, is how much investment so many community members have in the event, given that everybody's favorite local charity benefits from the event. This translates into a whole lot of people giving generously of their time and talent to ensure that the event is a success. So that's one of the unique aspects of Old Bills for me as an event planner, is just how much community buy-in we have. Folks listening to the webinar might wonder what led us to the Green Event Certification. And essentially, in light of the leadership role that the event has achieved in the philanthropic realm, it made sense to us at the Community Foundation to also demonstrate leadership in the realm of event sustainability. So we pursued a relationship with Council for Responsible Sport for that reason. And we were proud to achieve silver level certification for Old Bills in 2012. We were the first Wyoming event to become certified, which was really exciting.
Right. Well, thank you for that background. I think it's really helpful to understand the breadth of what this event represents. It's almost as if this event is the culmination of so much almost beating heart of philanthropy in Jackson Hole in a way. Would that be accurate to say?
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah. So, but along that last point you made in terms of getting engaged with the Council for Responsible Sport and really looking to exemplify what leadership in sustainable sport looks like, we have kind of lined out a few talking points. So I just want to give our listeners briefly a quick look at what we'll out. So we're going to get into managing waste streams as a key to successful waste diversion efforts at the event. Second, we'll talk about the importance of teamwork and buy-in. And third, we'll hear about doing it all with a limited budget and in terms of capacity and resources, not just money, but people's time and attention as well. So with that, I would say, how do you all approach the issue of waste management as it relates to Old Bills? And let's see if we can talk our way into some of the things that you've learned and how you've improved over the years.
Sure. Well, I will intro this topic, but it's really the domain of Mary Allen and Mac. And I would just say I'm really blown away by the extent to which we have been able to make really significant strides in waste stream reduction over the years. And Mary Allen and Mac will discuss different obstacles and different achievements, but But one thing that I think is so fundamental to our success in the waste stream management department has been a really effective and committed group of volunteers led by Mac and Mary Allen. Really, none of this would have been possible without a super committed team, and I think that's an important thing for event planners to bear in mind when they approach this, because it's a pretty big thing, whether you're dealing with the obstacles we are here in Jackson Hole or the obstacles of a more urban place. And it's really not something that an event coordinator on his or her own can manage. And so I'm just eternally grateful to the folks that comprise our volunteer team. They're so effective at what they do. And we've had a lot of really cool things happen absolutely as a result of their hard work. So I'll turn it over to Mary Allen, who's going to talk about some of the obstacles we have faced with regard to waste stream management.
Thanks, Annie. Yeah, I'll just reiterate what you said about that we have a unique platform here for waste diversion in Teton County, and it really does take a lot of hands and a lot of dedicated volunteers. First of all, in Jackson, here in northwestern Wyoming, we do not have a local landfill. Managing waste in our community is pretty difficult. We are what's called a transfer community, meaning that we, at the end of, or throughout each day, and then by the end of the day, we have collected all the trash from the community and put it onto trucks and sent it 100 miles away, even across the state line, to Bonneville County, Idaho. We do that on a daily basis. We've done so since 1989, and we will continue to do so for the long term here. So that is a challenge. It's an obstacle, but it's also an opportunity when it comes to waste diversion, because we don't have a landfill out our back door that we can just throw things into. We have to be really conscious of our waste and our materials, and it gives us, specifically myself and Mac and Annie, people who are trying to divert waste, it gives us added incentive where it's an easy sell when we talk about recycling and composting and being careful with our materials, because it's not easy to manage them here. With that, I'll give a quick description of our recycling program. We have a source-separated system here, meaning that all of our recyclables are not combined together. We keep them separate. We recycle aluminum cans separately from plastic bottles, separately from cardboard and newspaper, and so on. We do that to maximize the recyclability of those materials, to limit contamination, and also to maximize the value that we get for those materials, because we do have to transport them so far from Jackson to the national and global markets where they can be processed. So it's not easy to recycle here, and when you think of an event with 4,000 people and how we communicate to them where we want them to put their cans and their plastic bottles versus their trash and other materials, it takes a lot of education and a lot of hands on deck, which these guys have made happen for years now at the event. It's really a beautiful choreography that comes together. And then quickly to touch on another aspect of waste diversion that's common in many communities, that's composting. We don't yet offer food waste composting in Teton County. It's something we're working towards, and it is planned by the year 2021. We're currently working on our infrastructure. We have a construction project going down at our transfer station site where we will be offering food waste composting in the future, but there's a lot of construction and project completion that needs to happen in the next few years. And then also we're working on the permitting and policy side of food waste composting. It's not very common in communities throughout the Rocky Mountain West or in Wyoming. So we are working hard to get the paperwork in place and get permission to do all the things we want to do. So that's something that's coming in the future, and we do have an opportunity for that in 2018 coming up that Mac and I will talk about in a little bit. But I hope that sets the stage for when we say we're diverting waste from an event, it's not that we put out an extra bin or just direct people in a different direction. There are actually a lot of steps in that process, and it's complicated and takes a lot of education and a lot of participation.
And I would also add that Teton County has had a great success just recognizing, we all know that events can create a lot of waste. And Teton County has established some resources and protocols around this and really reached out to venues and event planners to help out with that, to be proactive around that through their Reduce, Reuse, Recycle program. So I could mention some specific achievements that we've been able to institute in this event over the last few years. In 2011, we were able to eliminate single-use plastic water bottles by offering on-site water tables. In 2012, we were successful in procuring exclusively eco-friendly food service dry goods from in-kind donors. And it's worth mentioning that this required special permits from our State Department of Environmental Quality in terms of composting these materials, but that's something we were able to work through and got great support in. And 2012 was also our baseline year to begin tracking trash and recyclables. In 2013, we were able to reduce the breadth of dry goods that we requested from in-kind donors and really just focus on essential items, thereby reducing waste. In 2015, we introduced the JH2O water filling station, which everybody loves. This is a portable water filling station that we try and get out to multiple events around the community. In 2016, we offered up free reusable Shelley pints at the JH2O water filling station, and again, big hit with folks. This is a great example of useful swag, which we've also given some thought to, just making sure that the swag that's offered during Old Bills, it's not stuff that just ends up in the trash can the next week. And then in 2018, upcoming, we're really excited for a prospective partnership with Grand Teton National Park and Subaru for a more comprehensive composting pilot project, which will hopefully include food waste. One thing that really struck me this year is at the end of the event, just how little trash was produced. And, you know, we figure we get upwards of 4,000 people at the event, and we ended up with one small dumpster of trash. And after the event, it was just myself and Mary Allen and a small team of people walking around, and there was just so little trash there, and even so little recyclables. And I think this is speaks to how successful we've been in just getting this in people's mentality. And then the last thing I'd like to mention is just, the importance of the volunteer team that we put together. And it's been so fun to see that people actually, they want to come out and volunteer for this seemingly gross task, which is really not. We're just finding that people really want to come out and talk trash with their peers and help educate folks on our state of trash affairs here in the Valley. And we have a lot of fun with these volunteers. They're stationed around all the different receptacles and just offering up conversation and direction for all the participants.
Yeah, that's awesome. I enjoyed hearing the highlights of your achievements over the past, ongoing 8 years of, working to reduce waste and divert it. And it's great to hear that you've got, that you have noticeable differences in recent years, in terms of how much trash is left over after the event happens. And so that's a great takeaway and something to celebrate. And I think that your last comment also is a great segue into our kind of second talking point, which is the social infrastructure that enables this work to occur. And I'd like to hear a little more about the ways you all plan for bills to be a responsible event and which partners and organizations that make it all possible and how you all work together.
Absolutely. Well, I will field this question. This is Annie again. So Old Bills definitely takes a village, and its many stakeholders are what enable the event's sustainability efforts. So as I mentioned earlier, scores of community members have a really deep investment in the success of Old Bills, given that everybody's favorite charity benefits financially from the event. So this translates to lots of people throwing their support to the event, whether it's as a donor or a walker or a runner or a volunteer. And the volunteers are the groups that I work the most closely with. And then in addition, recognizing the broad community good that comes from Old Bills, we have lots of generous and long-standing in-kind donors to the event. And so these factors put me in a really unique and advantageous position as the event coordinator, and for that I am eternally grateful. I would love to share some of the ways that community partnerships have helped make Old Bills a green event. And again, we do have a little bit of a unique circumstance given that so many people have an investment in our event, but hopefully any other event coordinators who are listening to this might be able to take inspiration from the different partnerships that we've been able to achieve and envision how they could create those similar partnerships within their event. So the first example is just Mac and Mary Allen, who have donated countless hours to ensuring the maximum diversion rate and cultivating new ideas and strategies for a more sustainable event. We also have on our run committee a water tables team, and they track the amount of water they use. They only partially fill cups, and then they get all of their compostable cups sorted and over to Mac and Mary Allen at the end of the event. So it's a little bit more logistical than it sounds, and it's a really important job that they play. There is another couple of run committee members who have helped us to transition to all online registration for timed runners. Terra Firma is the company locally that donates water cup composting for us. And as previously discussed, we're working, or mentioned briefly, we're working on a food composting opportunity with Grand Teton National Park and Subaru this year, and I'll have Mary Allen tell you a little bit more about that in a bit. Integrated Solid Waste and Recycling, which is the organization that Mary Allen represents, they donate their cardboard recycling services. They procure the DEQ permitting that we need for water cup composting. They are one of the liaisons for our opportunity with the National Park and Subaru this summer. And they also, at the event, provide on-site education at their RRR, the Reduce, Reuse, Recycle booth, which is conveniently located next to the water filling station, and it is where we give out the free silly pints that Mac mentioned, and where we even have a RRR Avenger superhero, which I recommend for all green events. And hopefully you all are able to see a photo of her. She's great. Jackson Curbside Recycling donates recycling bins and hauling. West Bank Sanitation donates trash bins and hauling, and they'll be a critical partner for that food composting endeavor that we've mentioned. Local Journey School students, high school students, calculate our carbon footprint. Senior Center of Jackson Hole volunteers make our Youth 5K finisher medals from eco-friendly materials. Another amazing run committee member orchestrates the collection of runner bibs at the finish line, which are then repurposed or recycled for free by our timing company. Our local Parks and Rec department provides its JH2O water filling station for free. That was something Mac mentioned earlier. The Jackson Police Department provides officers on electric motorcycles to lead the runner pack. The town of Jackson provides 100% green power for free on the Jackson Town Square, which is our event venue. Start Bus provides a free shuttle to the event. Friends of Pathways, which is a nonprofit that benefits from Old Bills, they provide a free bike valet at the event. The Bunnery, a local restaurant, donates locally produced granola. The Jackson Hole Mountain Resort, which is our ski hill that probably lots of listeners have skied at in the past, they donate eco-friendly food service dry goods. And last but not least, Teton Signs, a local signs company, they repurpose our old banners into tote bags for free. So these relationships are absolutely essential to the green event that we have produced here in Jackson. And again, we have some unique circumstances in terms of everyone having a part in Old Bills, but I think that some of these relationships could be replicated by other event planners trying to green their event. They are, this being a 21-year-old event, these are relationships that are many years in the making, but we take great care to nurture them. And that is something that I would also recommend to anyone who is relying on partnerships to actualize their green event vision.
And Annie, how much would you say, what's the balance between giving having these groups take ownership of that specific piece of the event? Do they feel that in the partnership that they are fully responsible for their piece and that's how it all comes about, or is it more closely managed by yourself and the race committee?
It's somewhat managed, but many of these partners have been partners for more than a decade, some of them 2 decades. And so even though our requests over the years might have evolved, for example, the Jackson Hole Mountain Resort hasn't always donated eco-friendly dry goods for our food service, but because they're an eco-minded company, when we said, listen, we're going for a green event, would you be willing to instead donate products that meet these certain standards? They were totally obliging. It was great. And so we have everyone, I would say, fairly well trained in their part at this point, but it's something, we always remind them of our sustainability goals at the beginning of the Old Bill season, so there's no confusion about either the materials that we end up with or the services that the different partners provide. We always have some turnover in Run Committee. It's a committee of about 30 people, and so there's some new Run Committee member training that always happens, but it's kind of astounding to me how little management it takes at this point, not only because people have been doing it for a while, but just generally I think that there is buy-in, that people appreciate the efforts that we as the Community Foundation have gone to make an Old Bill's sustainable event, and they're happy to support them in the ways that they do.
Well, it's an impressive list of ways that those organizations have been engaged in, and it's just I would hammer home the point that the outreach and the communication to those groups, and just talking about the desire to be associated and to work towards a more sustainable event can be such a great conversation starter to let things happen that weren't previously planned for.
Absolutely, I would agree.
Well, so that's a good lead into our next topic, which is understanding that a lot of events and event coordinators are working on a shoestring budget and trying to make the most out of what they've got. So we've heard that community partners are a key aspect of that. But let's hear a little bit more about what that looks like for you guys at Old Bill's.
Sure. So we definitely are on a shoestring budget, which, given the amount of money that the event raises, sometimes surprises people. Just to remind folks, it's $146 million over 21 years. The amount has varied over these many years, but in more recent years, it's been 11 and 12 million a year. But yet the funds that we've raised from the community go 100% to our participating nonprofits, and the Community Foundation fundraises separately to cover event costs. So we do try to operate on a shoestring budget, and have been doing that for a long time. Long before environmental sustainability was a pillar of Old Bill's, we were reusing and repurposing and borrowing wherever we could to meet our budget. And when we went for CRS certification in 2012, there wasn't a ton new that we needed to integrate into our materials procurement regimen. And of course, given the nature of the event, we easily attained the certification requirements that were related to charitable giving. Mostly, we just needed to codify and formalize our efforts. We needed to rework our event marketing a bit to have more of a sustainability bent. And we needed to educate volunteers and in-kind donors on our new and more official standards. I should reiterate that relative to other events, Unique has a uniquely large and willing cast of partners, since so many of our community members have a stake in the event. So it is in that context that I offer the following thoughts on how to run a green event on a shoestring budget. The first thought is to seek vendors and in-kind donors with environmental values. When partners philosophically support your greening efforts, they're more likely to donate goods and services that help meet your sustainability goals. The Jackson Hole Mountain Resort, which I just mentioned with respect to dry goods, is a great example. The integrated solid waste and recycling here in Teton County is another great example, and you've heard about the myriad ways that Mary Allen and her organization support Old Bills. Jackson Curbside Recycling is another organization that very much supports what we're doing and is eager to help us make it happen. The Attain, which is a wonderful shirt supplier we've been working with for many years, really outstanding company with respect to sustainability, a B corporation. They're based in Maine, and they have really helped us green our swag, so to speak, and they have given us a great product, and they've also given us incredible philanthropic support. So yeah, just seeking out the vendors and partners whose values are aligned, I would say, is an important goal. Another suggestion would be just to simplify material needs where possible. As Mac mentioned, we reduced our food service dry goods in 2013. We just really simplified what we thought we absolutely needed and cut out the excess. We also simplified our event menu to make food easier to procure locally and to just simplify the whole process. We're looking into the possibility of reusable dishware and cutlery for this event coming up in September of 2018. So just simplifying and using reusable where possible. I think that in our experience, reuse and repurposing really do save time and money. We just have been very lucky to have a good amount of storage. We've accumulated a lot of supplies over the years and taken good care of them, and we just fortunately have a place to put them from year to year. And I know not all events have that luxury, but we reuse and repurpose with great frequency our things like beverage dispensers and banners, signs, name tags, volunteer vests, food service items. Like I said, I started working on Old Bills in 2010, and there are things in our storage unit that we still routinely use, and just because we've been mindful to take good care of them, they still work for us. I definitely recommend borrowing or buying secondhand materials where possible, getting from places like eBay or Craigslist, or borrowing from other organizations, or even borrowing from local government. We get a whole lot of our route equipment, the run route equipment, from our Public Works Department. And as a nonprofit that benefits the community very broadly, they generously don't charge us a fee, but I think for other event planners, it might be a consideration, even if they did have to pay a small fee. Things like cones and stanchions and road signage all come from our Public Works Department. One lesson that I have learned is not to be tempted to buy low-quality materials on the cheap, because they really don't withstand years of event use. It's really easy when you go on Amazon to just get the cheapest version of whatever you need to meet your budget, but I think in many respects, getting something that is high quality but maybe secondhand is a better route to go, just because it will last longer. And the last thought I have on the topic of sustainability on a shoestring is just kind of what we've been talking about all along, the importance of recruiting reliable and on-board volunteers. It's just essential to carrying out your sustainability measures both before and on run day. Just to reiterate some examples, Mac and Mary Allen are my prime examples of all things sustainability oriented about this event, but I think of the 5K metal making volunteers, the Journey School carbon footprint calculators, the water tables team, the volunteers who collect bibs for recycling at the finish line. Really, if you have a reliable group of people who are committed to this cause, it's amazing what you can accomplish on a small budget if they're volunteers. And particularly nonprofit sporting events are likely to be able to attract volunteers, but even ones that are for-profit people will buy into this this cause of sustainability, and it just takes some recruitment of good, committed people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing all of those great examples. There's clearly a lot to talk about when it comes to Old Bills. It's an in-depth operation and clearly a real community effort. I jotted down a couple, takeaways from what you're saying, and I think what I wrote here was, if you're thinking about simplifying, just starting with where you are and maybe making a list of all the things and stuff and just physical materials that you end up dealing with, or that are present in some way. Maybe it's an inventory of your storage space or whatever, but taking a good look at that with an eye for what's truly necessary and the quality of those items, and then thinking through those things you said about what are some other ways to potentially procure those items rather than just go into the store and buying them new and sometimes in lower quality. So with that, I wanted to give an opportunity to kind of summarize and reflect on these three topics. So looking at waste stream management, talking about partnerships, and talking about doing it all with an eye for sustainable simplicity and collaboration. So with that, I would say, Mary Allen, Mac, Annie, anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't get a chance to talk about earlier?
Shelley, it's Mary Allen. I should probably follow up on a thread that we kind of promised to give people a little more information on, and that's this food waste composting opportunity that we have coming up. Mac mentioned the minimal waste that was generated at the events over the years, and much of even that minimal waste is food. So we have an opportunity in this coming year to piggyback on a pilot program that's happening here with sponsorship from Subaru of America in Grand Teton National Park as part of the National Park Service Waste Diversion Initiative. So the food waste from Old Bills this year will likely be incorporated into that pilot food waste collection that's happening in the park, which is a great opportunity for us. And I'll just sum that up by saying that pilot program is very restrictive. It's just a park project, and it's a credit to Annie and her leadership and just the weightiness, the importance of Old Bills event that it's allowed to participate in that pilot park project. So that's something we'll be able to talk to you about next year, but we're really looking forward to it, and we think it's a credit to this event, to the Old Bills event, that we're allowed to participate in that local project.
Right.
I think I would defer that credit back to Mary Allen, but she's been an incredible liaison, and as she mentioned, so much of our waste is food waste that with this partnership, we'll be able to make a pretty drastic impact on our overall waste in 2018 and years to come.
Right. Well, and it speaks well to the reputation of the event, and all the stakeholders that are bought into and supporting the event. Mac, would you share a little insight in your experience, as doing outreach in the broader community? How does this event reflect or not, or differ from, community values as you see it?
Yeah, well, I think that Old Bill's Fun Run is very reflective of the values and the culture in Jackson. There's such a strong history of conservation in this valley, and I really see people adopting that in their lives, and working with individuals and organizations. Sustainability is really on the forefront of people's minds around here, and it's so encouraging to see. And something that we've found is that, it can be really tangible, and folks enjoy that. And I think that's why we've had such great success in rallying the volunteers around this. People really want to come out and get their hands a little dirty and help out with this.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and speaking of, an ethos and it being firmly part of the values of this place, I always like to close on kind of a personal note. And so my closing question to you each is, what motivates you personally to keep looking for those ways to improve and to do this work? Because, it really does a lot of times come down to having a champion, and you all are the champions. So What motivates you?
Well, this is Annie again, and I'm passionate about both philanthropy and the environment, and the CRS platform and support system have really enabled Old Bills to play a leadership role in both areas. And that's what keeps me going. We here at the Community Foundation are eternally committed to maximizing the philanthropic impact of Old Bills and minimizing the environmental impact of the event. And it's thanks to great partners like Council for Responsible Sport and the REN committee members here with me that it's an actuality.
Folks, we're a nonprofit. That was a non-paid plug. Thanks, Annie. What about you, Mary Ellen?
Gosh, it's hard to sum it up quickly, but I will just say that the word that stands out for me is quality. The quality of the Old Bills event, and then the quality that comes from wasting less and having an awareness about the materials that we're using and discarding. And this is just really the kind of coming together of those two ideas that drives me and gives me the opportunity to both do my job and celebrate all that I value in my community at the same time. So couldn't be better.
Nice.
And this is Mac. I'm just happy to be a part of creating the type of mindful community that I wish to live in. And like Mary Ellen, I'm also a waste nerd. And we're having fun and success in increasing folks' awareness around waste diversion. We're making trash sexy again.
Love it. All right, you guys. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for us today. I so appreciate you taking some time to share the story of Old Bills with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, to everybody listening, we hope you got some great takeaways, and check back to the Council for Responsible Sport.org soon for more content and tips. So, all right, signing off.